For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com, SoundCloud, Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Is that what it's called? Again, I swear to you, every week I get this wrong. But anyway, you're listening to us, and that's what matters. How's it going today? I've got some interesting travel stories for you, because as you are listening to this today, presumably Friday, July 19th, I am likely on an airplane and out of town for the day. I'm just flying to Toronto for the day. But flying always brings out some weird aggression, aggravation, intolerance in me. I'm going to share my stories in just a bit to see if you can relate, because I didn't realize that I have so many emotions when I go to an airport and then when I get on the airplane. So I'll tell you about that coming up in just a little bit. And yeah, 30 minutes of chatter today, actually. That's what's going on. So hopefully you'll stick around for that. And also some thoughts on being a pet owner. So if you've got mainly a dog, you'll want to stay tuned, because I've been experiencing some things with mine that, again, maybe you can relate to, and maybe you can even help me out with as well. So we're going to get into the 30 minutes of rants and discussion right after this here on The Scribble.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here, back on The Scribble. At the top of the show, which was only, a minute and a half ago, I mentioned how, as you're listening to this, I might be on the airplane, I might be in Toronto, or I might be on the way home if you're listening to this on a Friday. And I just love the sound of that, right? It just makes you sound like such a globetrotter. I'm just flying to Toronto for the day and I'm flying back home at night. No, I've got a meeting and some things to take care of, and I really don't want to spend the weekend in Toronto because it's just not my city. Now, going to the airport, though, just brings out hostility. I don't even know the right word. In all honesty, rage. Rage is a good one, but hostility would be my second choice. And there's so many things about the airport. First off, my flight was at 5 a.m. I am not a morning person, which is why I never did morning radio. But at 5 a.m., that means that you're in line at security now, going back, 4 a.m., right? You've got to be at the airport at least an hour before your flight. And which also then means you had to leave your house. So right now we're going back, we're taking all these steps back. So you had to leave the house at, let's say, 3:30, depending on where you live. Which then means you had to be awake at 3 a.m. Maybe 2:30, depending on how much you've got to do before. If you're like me and you pack the night before, although I didn't have much to pack on this one, so now you're on a 5 a.m. flight, which means that you had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So right there, you're already going to be pissy, because who wants to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And then when you're in line at security, which is moving as slow as can be because it's a Friday morning, it's 4 a.m., and you always have there's always like that one person who's behind you. You can't see, but you can hear the voice. You already envision in your head what they look like. That they just don't shut up. Right? They're talking a mile a minute. They just have so much energy. I can't tell if it's that they are excited for their trip or they're just one of those people who feels like they need to fill that dead air if they're with somebody, right? It's okay to be in silence for a little while. It is okay to stand with somebody and not speak a word for 2 minutes. Now, you know people like this. You know people that all of a sudden feel they consider it to be an awkward silence because you're not saying anything. And so their head is going a mile a minute and they're going to be giving any random bullshit that they think is entertaining or interesting, right? I don't want that at 4:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning when I am standing at the airport, basically waiting to undress at security because they think that, my toothpaste is going to bring down the airplane and they're going to throw it out for me. So it's the chatty Cathys in the morning. And I'm using that term not to be sexist, but that's the term, right? Or let's say, not blabbermouth, because that's somebody who spills secrets. Chatty Cathy in the general sense of a person who doesn't shut up. I'm not implying women, okay? So don't write me your hate mail. But, so you're going to have that person. And sometimes if you're like me, you'll be a dick about it, and you'll kind of, when they have like a loud outburst or some sort of, loud laughter or whatever, you'll kind of do that turn around and like, who was that? Or you'll give that look, right? Hoping that they're going to take the hint. They never do. They don't. Because they're oblivious, right? They're the only one that's there in that moment. They are in their own little bubble. Nobody else exists at that time. And so there's that aspect of it too. And then, of course, there's that whole, do you have a laptop in your bag? Do you have a laptop in your bag? Laptops out, please. And it's like, oh my God, just... I get it. I know. I got to take out my laptop. All right. I'm just give me a second. Right. I'm only just putting my things on the counter now. Okay. I do have a laptop. Give me 2 seconds. I've read all of the signs because I've been standing in line for a good 10 minutes trying to block out the person behind me who won't shut up. I've read this. I saw the picture. I know. I know exactly how this works. And then you go through security and then you wait. And for some reason you're standing there going, I know that there's nothing in my bag that's going to make them send the little conveyor belt back a little bit and then forward a little bit and then back a little bit again. I know there's nothing in my bag, but they're going to do it. And in all honesty, the last time, I'm not talking about this trip because, like I said, we're taping this before I actually leave, but the last time, I'm not kidding you, 2 books in my bag, 2 books, 2 little novels. We're not talking hardcover book. We're not talking about a Bible with a flask cutout inside. We're talking 2 little paperback books that I think are not even 300 pages. 2 of them were together, like back to back in my bag. And that made them take my bag and go for a further examination. So that's when they've got the blue gloves, they got to put those on. And I just put my hands in the air like I'm going into the operating room, when you put the hand. You can't see that, so I'm giving you... I should have that notice. This podcast is enhanced for the visually impaired, since you can't see it anyway. And then they're going to dig through, right? They're going to... You have anything sharp in here? It's like, you just sent it through that thing. You tell me if there's anything sharp in here, right? I mean, come on. And so... they go, they dig things, they're looking, then they go back to the picture and look where it is. And I'm just like, and I don't know exactly what they're thinking it is, because if 600 little pieces of paper creates a concern, then maybe they need better technology. Yes, we can't see through a book. Okay, I get it. But paper should be detectable, I would think. And again, I don't know. I've never worked in an airport security line, so... And if you have, I would love to absolutely hear from you. live@jbonair.com is my email address, live@jbonair.com. So now you've put everything back together, and they'll offer to put your bag back together, and it's like, I got it, thanks, okay? I'll let me do it. And in that moment, because you're feeling the pressure and you just want to get the hell out of there, for some reason, not everything is getting shoved back into your bag the way it was before. You're trying to jam that laptop, and some reason it's not going in perfectly, and, everything, it's like, where did I have this? Crap, damn you for taking it out. And there are the times when I actually will let them, because depending on how full my backpack I usually take with me, depending on how full that is, I actually almost want to see if they can, because I know that it took me a good 20 minutes at home to get everything wedged in there. I want to see if they can do it as well. And then I put them on the spot. And then eventually, you let them struggle for a little while, and then you're like, you know what, I got it. We're okay. I gotcha. And so then you collect your things. You try to, you wander around and go, okay, wait, it's gate whatever. Is that to the left or to the right? Where do I go? And then as you're looking up, you're dodging people who are looking down at their cell phones, not paying attention to where they're going. And then you finally get to your gate. You look to see how full it is there. Is there a seat? Do people have their bags all over the seats because, they don't want somebody sitting beside them? Whatever, that's one thing. And then you look to see if there's a phone charger because, you're going to want to juice up your device before you go on the plane, because you never can be too sure if the plane actually has an outlet for you to plug it in. And if you're like me, you generally get the seat that has a little USB thing that for some reason doesn't work. Everybody else does. Yours just doesn't. And so you always think, you know what, I'm not going to charge it while I'm still in the terminal. I'll just do it on the plane. Then you're screwed because, I don't have power to charge my phone. So then you find one of those power outlets. You see everybody that's gathered around, huddled around, that doesn't have a long enough cord, so you kind of laugh at them. Or you see the people that are sitting on the floor because, they didn't get there early enough to reserve their power outlet. And everybody's getting their phones and everything juiced up. And then you have the people, so as soon as they announce it, you got the people who try to get through in the earlier lineup, right? Section 1, 2, or whatever it is. And naturally, then you've got the super elite, star privileged, too much money to know what they are going to do with it customers. They've basically bought their way into good customer service, so they get to go onto the plane first and then get their little glass of orange juice that they paid an extra $85 for, and about 2 inches of leg room, and nobody sitting beside them. Okay, great, privileged. And then the rest of us little peons get sardined into the back of the plane. And then, you've got the people who are taking pictures at the window as though they've never been on an airplane before. So you hope that they secretly do have this panic attack and start to freak out once you take off. But because they're already taking pictures, you think that they're excited and they won't. And then there's naturally the warning to put away your phones, turn off your devices. People won't. And then you're going to see the flight attendants walking towards you from the front of the plane, and you're going to quickly hide it to make it look like you've put it away, but you haven't. And then as soon as they go past, you bring it out again. And then you get caught off guard because all of a sudden you happen to see them as they're going back to the front, thinking that they didn't notice it, but you know that they really did. And then, you get the announcement that you're taking off. You're told to watch the safety demonstration, which you don't because you kind of already have to know how the seatbelt works because you put it on before the plane started moving. Isn't that interesting? They show you how to work the seatbelt after you've already put it on. Imagine that, hey? And so really, they actually should make you watch that while you're waiting in line at security. Wouldn't that make things a lot quicker? Yeah, you're standing there, you got something to pay attention to in the first place, right? But no, they've already got all those warnings that you can't have a full toothpaste because, again, that's going to bring down the plane. So now the plane is in motion, you're going. You're going to have the person behind you who gets up to go to the washroom, pulls the back of your seat to give you whiplash, and you go, you spring forward. And if you're on the aisle seat, you're hoping to hell that you look at the people beside you and go, okay, how old is he? How often is he going to go to the bathroom? Okay, so she had a full Pepsi before we took off. So, all right, I'm going to have to get up for her. So I can't nap or go to sleep on my 5 a.m. flight. And it's incredible the things that you go through, right? These are all thoughts, and I'm not kidding you. These are all thoughts that I have when I go on the flight. Because undoubtedly, all of these things happen every time that I fly. I'm not done yet. I've still got more, by the way. I know we're at the 10-minute mark of this segment already. So as you're flying, just when you're getting into a good part of the show that you're watching or whatever it is, there's going to be the interruption on the in-flight entertainment. That's going to stop what you're watching. And you're like, okay, shut up. I don't care what the weather is there right now. I'm in the air. There's nothing I can do about it anyway. And then your show starts back up again, and then the interruption happens because they're going to do it again in French or Spanish, depending on the airline that you're traveling with. And then you're like, okay, great, fine. And everything is coasting along, right? You're going to have maybe that little bit of turbulence. If there does happen to be the real shocker turbulence, you're going to have the people gasp and go, oh! And then when you land, this is the one that really cheeses me off. When you land, you're going to have the people, you're going to hear the click, 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 because the plane has come to a stop, but that seatbelt sign is still on. And some people will stand up at that time, they'll then get that testy message from the flight attendant who goes on to the intercom and tells you to sit your ass down. Depending on the airline, they might not use the word ass. And then, once the seatbelt sign does go off, you know that a good 65 to 80% of the people on the plane are going to stand up for some reason, even though you can't really go anywhere, except clogging the aisle, which is perfect in the event of an emergency. And you're going to have everybody stand up, open up the overhead bin, start to pull out their things, and then you're going to wait because maybe the front door is jammed, or we've got to everybody sit down because we've got to move over a couple inches because they didn't pull up perfectly. Nevertheless, it's when everybody is still standing up and you can't see the front that you know you're going to have to wait a little bit longer because they're just waiting on something outside the plane. And yeah, you've got everybody standing up, and then because you're aggravated with the screaming kid that didn't shut up the entire flight, the guy that had a few too many drinks and was just loud and rowdy like the 5 a.m. person in security lineup. And at that point, you're like, just get me the hell off this plane. So now you go into the airport terminal. You probably go to the washroom, right? Because you didn't want to use the crammed-in toilet, and you didn't have to go when there was 20 minutes before you landed and the seatbelt sign came on. So you go to the washroom there, and then you get onto the moving sidewalk because you want to get to the baggage claim. And you're going to have the people who stop there or who are glancing down at their phone. They don't realize that you're supposed to stand to the one side, or maybe they are, but they're just taking up a little bit too much space so you can't get by them. And if you're like me, you're going to plow right through, and if you happen to hit them with your backpack as you go by, well, that's their fault because they didn't give you enough space. And then finally, you get to the baggage claim, you wait. Yours is going to probably be the third last bag that comes out. Then if it's not an airport you're familiar with, you're going to have to look for where the Uber drivers are, right? And it's not just right in the front where the taxi stand is, right? Or the limos or any of those kinds of things. You're going to have to go find the newly designated spot for ride-sharing apps. And then when you actually get out there, you're going to go and see that there's a good 10, 20, 40 people waiting ahead of you. So then you wonder, is it almost worth paying the extra money to get a taxi so you can get the hell out of there quicker than everybody else? There you go. Do you have any of those experiences when you get to the airport or when you're on an airplane? I know that was a good 13 minutes of rants about flying, but tell me if you agree. Do you experience this? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com, because I think, and again, maybe you don't experience every single one of them when you fly, and in all honesty, I don't have every single one when I do go out, but the majority of the time. And I think because those are the things that just annoy the piss out of me, that they stand out in my head. And trust me, if the flight that I'm on today has anything new come up and jogs my memory, I'll absolutely tell you next week on the show. But again, send me an email of your airport or airplane gripes. I would love to know what your biggest dislikes when you're traveling. Live@jbonair.com. Live@jbonair.com. We're back on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Thanks for spending this time with us. I do appreciate it. And do you ever feel like there's not enough time in the day? Obviously you don't, because you're wasting 30 minutes with us today, but do you ever have one of those moments where, maybe you're at work or you're on your way home or whatever, and you're sort of recapping in your head what needs to be done, right? Oh, that's right, I've got to cut the grass, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Okay. So that happened to me a couple of days ago, but I needed to piece it together so that everything made sense time-wise. Okay, so what I mean by that is, let's say, okay, I've got to get to this store, but it closes at 8. Okay, I've got to go and do this because that closes at 9. I've got to do this. So there's some time-sensitive things in there, and all of it has to be done that day. You cannot make accommodations and do something tomorrow or whatever, because I was going away the next day, so I basically had to do all these things. So I had to cut the grass, which I think I told that story a few weeks ago here on the show, where I just didn't have time to do it. Normally I hire a company and then I've got the guy that comes and cuts the grass. But it was coming into a long weekend and I was traveling and he just didn't get around to it. So I had to do it. And I hate doing yard work and housework and all that other stuff. I pay people to do things for me. So there was that, right? And that had to be done before, one, it got dark, and at least before 11 o'clock, before the noise bylaw kicks in. And then I also had to go to Staples and buy ink, right? I needed to get that before the store closed at whatever time because I had to print something. And so, again, this is one of those things where I own my company, so I could have just gone to the office and printed it, but I was already off, and I just didn't want to go all the way there. I could have run to Staples and just paid the $20-$30 to get an ink thing for my printer. As often as I buy ink anyway, I needed to just print like 4 or 5 pages. And so I was like, okay, I've got to do that, got to cut the grass. I should walk the dogs because it's nice out and I'm not going to see them for a little while, so I'll spend some time with them. And there were a couple other things. I don't really remember what they were. But this story is about me walking the dogs to Staples. And I'm not one of those people who takes my dogs and then ties them up outside. In West Hollywood, when I'm in West Hollywood, people take their dogs into stores all the time. That's very common there. But they also don't have full-size dogs. They've got these little rat dogs, that you wouldn't even notice because you're probably going to step on it anyway in the store. I have full-size dogs, a golden retriever and a lab cross. And so as I'm walking to the store, I was just like, oh, that's right. What am I going to do with them when I get there? I'm not going to tie them up outside because they're very pretty dogs and somebody would take them. And secondly, my dogs would be barking and going nuts if I all of a sudden I leave them on a post and I go inside. Oh my God, could you imagine? I wouldn't guarantee, they would probably either strangle themselves from pulling or they would pull out the concrete pole. I'm convinced of this. So actually, as I get there, I was kind of like, oh crap, this is going to be tough. What am I going to do? I go in the inside door. There's usually 2 sets of doors. So I go in there, and I kind of get the attention of an employee, and I wave her over, and I hold up the little card for my printer, the one that tells you, you need ink number 21 or whatever it is. So I give her that card. I'm like, I just need printer ink. So she comes over, I hand her the card, and we're still in the doorway. And it's about 8:30 or so at this time, so the store's not incredibly busy. And, every person that comes in or goes out, the dogs are like wanting to sniff and go over because they're in a new place. They haven't been inside a store like this before. Yes, they've gone into pet stores, but they've never been in, an actual mainstream kind of a store. So the woman is gone for a while, and I was like, oh my God. So then I see her coming back, and she doesn't have anything in her hands. And so I thought, oh, here we go. I came all this way, and it was about a 25-minute walk or so. I wasted the time coming here, and I'm basically going to have to get back home and then go somewhere else to get the ink. Perhaps Walmart if it's still open 24 hours. I don't know. And so then she goes to her computer and looks it up, and I guess there's like a different number or something for it. So then she goes and she holds it up, and so I said, can you just take my card? Can you just... And so she waves me in. She's like, just bring them in. And I thought, oh crap, here we go. If you want to see a scene caused, you're going to see a scene caused. We go in, and one dog is trying to go one way, then the other one's trying to go another, and it's sensory overload. There's people, and people are looking, and I go to the counter. My one golden retriever, Ernie, all of a sudden paws up on the counter, like it's the pet store, which he does there. Paws up on the counter. There's a plastic container of pens. That goes flying behind the desk, behind the counter. And another one, the other dog is like looking at everybody who's walking by, and then starts barking. They don't usually bark at people. He starts barking, and I thought, oh my God, here we go. So she's ringing it up, and I was like, just do this quickly. No, I don't want a bag. No, I don't want the extended whatever. No, I don't want this. I don't want to donate $1. I don't, just give me my fucking ink and get me out of this store. And I swear to you, we were only in the store for in reality, it was probably 45 seconds. And I'm trying to map it out of my head. We were probably physically in the store for about 30 seconds. Doorways was a different thing. Actually, in the store, maybe about 30 seconds. It seemed, I'm not kidding you, it seemed like a good 4 or 5 minutes because, and then I offered to help pick up the pens too because, it's like if you go into the store and your kid knocks something down or breaks something, you've got to buy it, you've got to take responsibility for it. And they were just like, you know what, we'll get it, just go. They were so nice. Again, they probably would get in trouble. They probably weren't allowed to let me into the store with the dogs. They certainly weren't service dogs based on their behavior. But it ended up being comical on the way home because I was like, you know what, this ended up being pretty funny. So shout out to the folks at Staples that let these 2 wild dogs in. Good times. All right, tell me if you've taken your pets shopping live at jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We're back with a little bit more chatter about dogs and pet ownership. So I mentioned going to Staples on a walk, and so one of my dogs is 11 years old, the other one is 8. And the 11-year-old is a golden retriever, purebred, award-winning parents, from what I understand. Registered member of the Kennel Club, and for some reason, that doesn't boost my income, but I guess it could if I really wanted to have a show dog. And in a way I do, because, my dogs, we have licensed photos of them to a greeting card company. And so, yeah, I guess, they do increase my bank book. I'm going to retract that entire opening, okay? I'm going to start again. It's great having pets, but sometimes, and I find that my golden retriever, who's 11 years old, is becoming a bit of a suck. Now, this could also be his way of telling me that something is wrong, but I find that there's times now, if I'm sitting on the couch, I'm watching TV, or I'm just doing something around the house, then he's just going to walk up and just stare at me. Now, back in the day, that used to mean I need to go to the bathroom outside, right? Let me out is basically what he's telling you. And now, I don't know what it is. And so I start to wonder, because again, you're 11 years old, so maybe there's something going on inside, even though the vet says he's fine. But, right, a dog can't talk. A dog can't tell you, hey, I've got a headache, or, oh, something is sore, and, oh, I can't. And so it's sort of maddening after. It's kind of cute because, again, you got that golden retriever face just sort of staring at you. But then on the other hand, you're sort of like, okay, what? Like, just what? It's like earlier when I was talking about being on the plane. You got that kid that's in the baby that's in the seat in front of you, and then happens to turn around and is looking at you, and you're like, okay, hi, yeah, all right, you can turn around anytime now. Okay, sit down. Okay, where are your fucking parents? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so the dog is doing that. I'm swearing a lot today. I love it. Again, just talking about airplanes and travel brings out the rage. So what do you do with the dogs? That do you yell at them, or like, what do you want? And there have been times when I've done that because it's frustrating. And then what I found, and I'm not kidding you, I've started to talk to him like a baby. I'm not kidding you, and believe it or not, that makes things better. So is my dog just being a suck because he wants attention? So now I'm going to sit and talk to him like, you were a good boy today. Yeah, you were. You were really good. You were such a good boy. And then, then he goes and like lays down or something. It's like, you really just needed that reassurance. And so I don't know why all of a sudden out of nowhere after 11 years, what do you think it is? And again, there's nothing concerning about his health as far as the vet has said or determined or detected or whatever. But just out of nowhere. Yeah, he'll just do that. So if you've got a dog, let me know if that ever happens. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. And what else do I have for you? Oh, we're going to... another break. Okay, you're going to hear about speakfreewithjb.com, which is the website for my syndicated newspaper column.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speakfreewithjb.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here, back on the Scribble, and they actually just reminded me that this whole time I've been ranting and raving about airplanes, and I totally forgot to tell you, and I wasn't really bitching about airlines, was I? No, I was talking about the passengers is really what my concern is. But you remember we did a special edition of the Scribble in Disney World in Orlando with Air Canada Dreams Take Flight. Well, here's the great thing, is that special edition of the Scribble podcast, believe it or not, get this, is going to be heard worldwide on Air Canada's in-flight entertainment unit in their system. And I'm looking forward to that. So it's that 30-some minute broadcast that we did where we were talking with the kids, and we had the president of Dreams Take Flight. We had the mayor from Winnipeg, my hometown, on the show as well. So it was a really good time. And if you're flying Air Canada beginning August 1st, you'll be able to hear the special edition of the Scribble podcast. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty wild. We're out of time, but you can feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. Live at jbonair.com is my email address. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat